and public policy with academic, government and industry partner. As advisory to the UK Cabinet Office, Andy author British Standard PAS 3000 Code of Practice for Smart Working 2015, which all UK government departments and agencies are required to comply with by mid-2022. And our second speaker, we have Dr. Izzuddin Shah Abdul Wahab. Dr. Izzuddin Shah Abdul Wahab is currently a senior lecturer acting as head of architecture department under the Faculty of Civil Engineering and Built Environment, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. By practice, he is also a design architect practicing with Linggis Design Sdn Bhd since 2004. He works on various building design topology before joining UTHM. He was working with architecture firm in Kuala Lumpur. He's obtained his PhD in civil engineering in UTHM in 2018, focusing on natural ventilation application on building. Before that, he completed his master's science in landscape architects in 2004 and bachelor degree in architecture in 1997. And my name is Ahmad Syarainon Muhammad Syarani, and I will be your host tonight. I'm the managing director of Microcorp Sdn Bhd. We do automate facility management activity throughout providing integrated workplace management systems, such as Akiba Sierra View, with the new name Space IQ. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping items. Everyone is on mute. If you have any question for our speaker, please feel free to enter them into the chat section, and we'll be addressing the question at the end of the session. Or you can also ask by raising your hands at the participant section at your Zoom interface. We have the event running live in Microcorp Facebook, and we also recording this, and a recorded version of all our webinar will be available in our YouTube channel after the live session. We'll be allocating 15 to 20 minutes for each speaker to give their insight, and after that we'll have 10 minutes of discussion. Okay, without further ado, we would like to invite Mr. Andy Lake. I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen now. Have you got my screen there? Yeah.
Not yet.
Has it come now?
Not yet. All right. Okay.
Yep. Good. Little delay there. Right. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm talking to you today from Lincoln in the East Midlands of the United Kingdom, and very glad to be with you here today to talk about the smarter future of work and workplace. I've been working in this field for about 25 years. About half my work is research and writing, and the other half is advising organizations about how to implement smarter working. Smart working really is pretty much the same as agile working. And we, after many years of helping organizations, brought this together in an integrated approach in the Smart Working Handbook. And this has helped many organizations find their way through. And this also came to the notice of the UK Cabinet Office, and I was commissioned to write, or based on it, the Guide to Smart Working Government, which is for 440,000 civil servants. This is my management book, Smart Flexibility, Moving Smart and Flexible Working from Theory to Practice. And this one here is the Code of Practice that was mentioned, Smart Working Code of Practice. So all government organizations are required to meet the specifications in here. Well, it's a kind of gathering of best practice in from across sectors, going through the usual British standards process to do this. And I'd just like to mention this other report I did a few years back with a number of global organizations and the UK Department for Business, called It's Work But Not As We Know It. It's looking at the future of work and how various other trends interface with smart or agile working, and what are the policy implications from that, and what are the recommendations for business. But what is smart working? Just go through this fairly quickly. It's a business-focused approach to flexibility. It seeks benefits for individuals, for people, for businesses, and also for the environment. So actively specifying the benefits. Is a transformational program. So it's like introducing not just new buildings, new technologies, but also a new working culture to achieve all kinds of benefits. It's based on having flexibility as the norm. Rather than applying for flexible working, you embed flexible and mobile practices in the organization. And now virtuality is normal, so that people feel just as much at home talking to each other across the networks as in person. There's very much a focus on results. Management by results is a key element, rather than focusing on managing people by where they are or the hours that they put in. And employees are trusted. It needs a culture of trust to work anywhere at any time, providing business needs are met. And it's supported by a new approach to workplaces and technology and culture change. So the workplaces and technology, although they're often the focus for the change and involve a lot of investment, they make the platform for work. It's how people implement the practices on top that is most important. And it's largely based around, on the workplace side, activity-based working and developing human-centric workplaces, workplaces that work for people and make great places to work. So there's over the past 30, 40 years, there's certain trajectories of change which are in play, which have led to smart working and also which are going to make further changes in the future. First of all, we have societal change. So one of the big changes in the UK over the past 50 years really has been women coming into the workplace, and flexible working is something which has been associated with that. But we also have an aging society, which is making quite a difference. There's also a lot more interest in inclusion and diversity, so people with disabilities being able to work, whether in the workplace or elsewhere. Then there's flexible working, which runs alongside that, and which is also, we have flexible working regulations, so we have a right to request flexible working. Then there's digitization, very, very rapid development of this, which enables us to work in new places and in different ways, and is shifting the way organizations deliver products and solutions. Then there's new workplace concepts. Activity-based working is one of them. Mobility around buildings and campuses, lean thinking applied to the workplace, biophilia, getting more nature in the workplace, and also workplace well-being is a key trend. And then there's Industry 4.0, as it's called, the rise of automation, AI, and robotics, and which is quite interesting. I think a lot of people talk about it in terms of, will robots take our jobs? But really, from the workplace point of view, I think it's very interesting how many of the new systems enable different spatial relationships between where people are and what they work with. But then, of course, we have the trend that we weren't expecting, the virus coming along, which has changed things for a lot of people, or for everyone, really. And it makes us think again about the workplace and where people are working. So in the UK, we've got about 80% of white-collar workers are working from home. It's about 50% of the workforce altogether. And there's been so many studies recently about whether people want to continue working remotely, and a lot of evidence that they do, much more so than previously. So that has taken away many of the blockers that there were before. And there's a general consensus that hybrid working, which is always, working sometimes in a workplace, sometimes remotely, is the way things are going to be. This is from the Boston Consulting Group, thing that 65% of people, for them, remote and hybrid working will become the norm. Not full-time working remotely, but for most people it will be some kind of mix. And what we're finding as well is that the executive level, the C-suite, is suddenly aware of that they have workplaces and how much they're occupied. So we're finding that a lot of organizations, Fujitsu, PSA Group, Google, Twitter, Facebook, and many, many more are developing new working from home policies. And some of them, like Google, Twitter, and Facebook, they were very much thinking before, everyone's got to be together. That's the way to be productive. Now they're going the other way. But then there's also thinking about the costs of this. Total office costs survey, which is done every year by Lambert Smith Hampton and University College London, calculates that the average cost per workstation is £7,200, and that's quite a lot if these are standing empty a lot of the time. So 40% of managers expect reduction in office costs, 25% expect reductions of 20% or more. So there's the money side of things, financial side, and very much to be taken into account. The chief executive of Google was talking about having more office space because of social distancing, but actually most companies can't afford that, to have people working elsewhere and also having large socially distanced offices. So remote working is here to stay, it seems. This is from Gartner, survey of chief financial officers, and 74% of chief financial officers expect to permanently shift some staff to remote working after the pandemic is over. And that will obviously have a big impact on real estate. Now, at the same time, we have already emerging a new model of the workplace, rather than the traditional desk, meeting room, and storage, really. Activity-based working has all kinds of different spaces for different activities: quiet spaces, desks, meeting spaces, breakout areas, cafes, and so on. And then other areas you can work as well, organizational spaces elsewhere that replicate that to some degree, third-party spaces like client offices and co-working centers, public spaces, and personal spaces. And home is only one of these many spaces that people can work in. And these are all ideally connected together seamlessly by the virtual workplace. And there's been a great acceleration in making the virtual workplace more seamlessly accessible. But what else is happening? Well, I think as people occupy these workplaces, we're generating an awful lot of data these days from sensors, and these are increasingly integrated with other building systems, such as measuring carbon dioxide and how everything else is working. And this can also be used to sort of track flows of people. It's also used for booking systems and location finding. And increasingly that is integrated with people where else they are working as well, getting that knowledge. Huge amount of data being generated to create efficiencies around the building. Some of this may be automated, like being able to close down building services in some parts of the building at times of lower occupation and getting people to work in certain spaces. Now, what activities are best performed in different spaces? Well, on the whole, there's a consensus that those which involve high focus and concentration, the home is outperforming the workplace. For collaboration and for social interaction, then offices, workplaces tend to outperform the home. I think that's too simplistic, because I think there are many changes coming along here that people are learning to collaborate much better remotely, but social interaction does remain something of a challenge. Now, there's a big growth in flexible officing, co-working spaces. It's expected to grow 25 to 30%, or was. This was a report from Jones Lang LaSalle last year, and they're expecting a 25 to 30% increase per year over in Europe. And increasingly, organizations are turning to this. The one picture at the top is of a co-working space in Cornwall. It's been developed reusing a disused government building. The one on the bottom right is within a bank in Australia. So organizations including co-working type facilities in their spaces. And you think what this means for facilities management as well, with that different model of work, providing more of a hospitality approach to FM, to make sure that everything is working seamlessly for people who are spending relatively short amounts of time in the office and sharing space. I think another trend that we'll see a lot of is much bigger screens, intelligent screens and surfaces, and people interacting with them in different kinds of ways. So collaborating together around a dashboard, for example. These are some other ones here. Augmented reality, virtual reality coming in, and how that operates within the workplace. And also out in the field, different kinds of screens and surfaces. We're going to see more of this. So how is all this going to be supported in organizations? And how will people interface through these screens with people who are working remotely? Have you got the right spaces and the acoustics to enable that to happen well? Biophilia, hot trend. We work much more efficiently and are much less stressed when we have good sensory environment, as is Microsoft Office, designed for comfort in working. And what about away from the office? Biophilia at home. So this kind of highly natural pod here. And this is actually the view from my conservatory where I often work. So getting the access to natural light and natural features is a very good thing to have. And maybe that's something which workplace designers and facilities managers need to move into, that is the workplace beyond the workplace. Then there's new kinds of work as well, and how will that impact the need for space? So here's some pictures of some mining in Australia with semi-autonomous machines. Who's monitoring them? Who's running them? It's this guy 80 miles away, and he could be anywhere. And what about these new areas like mining asteroids or farming under the sea? People will be, where will they need to be in order to do that? I have a whole load more of examples here, but time doesn't allow. But it's interesting to think about what are the spatial impacts of Industry 4.0. And you get these kind of small robots, inspection robots, being used in things like the aviation industry and looking through pipes and around buildings. These kind of drones used to inspect aeroplanes. I saw a Rolls-Royce demonstration. They have kind of like a snake that can go inside aircraft engines. So a plane landing in Kuala Lumpur can be inspected there rather than having to fly back to the UK or somewhere and its engines taken apart. Big spatial shift in where things are done and the facilities you need. So just to sum up, thinking about the future workplace. Well, I think we can look forward to smaller office footprints, but more intensively used, much more throughput of people, once the pandemic is past and we're less worried about social distancing. They'll be designed for interaction and events more than sitting down at rows of desks. And I think a lot of people are worried about open plan, but breaking up open plan into different zones seems functionally, so aesthetically, visually, acoustically, break into different areas, but which can flow into each other is the way forward. So, and design will include desks, but won't be designed around them, or it shouldn't be. The spaces and the tech in the workplace needs to interact dynamically with people working elsewhere. And I think this is quite interesting conceptually. We talk about remote workers thinking they're outside the workplace. The workers in the workplace are equally remote. They may be remote from the majority of their colleagues anytime. So rather than having to go to a meeting room, how is this going to work in an organization where people just want to make a quick interaction with somebody involving video? So the new types of work, as we have said, have new spatial impacts. There's very high importance of well-being and sensory environment. And one aspect of this as well is user controllability and also inclusion. A lot of research going on at the moment into things like neurodiversity, people on the autism spectrum, how to design the spaces that they would choose to use. And there's a need for a hospitality approach to FM. Rather than have to send in your support ticket to the facilities and another support ticket to IT, how does this all come together to be more proactive in making a comfortable work experience? So you get the seamless service for FM and IT needs. And then FM beyond the workplace is needed to service the social infrastructure of work, as I'm calling it, people work in all the other social spaces and domestic spaces in which they may happen to be working, or having the recommendations so that people can do things in the best way possible. I'll just end with this. I'm looking forward to your questions and comments later, but this is a picture of an office of the future from the past. I wonder if anyone can guess when this office, which actually existed when it was designed. And that's where I'll pass back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andy. I like your place. The place, working place with the flowers just now. I think
Yes.
that's my dream. That I already created that place, but not with all the flowers. It's still empty space in front of my my master bedroom. But because of the weather here, it's not like in UK, so it's not suitable for that.
Well, one of the first things that inquiries that came to me when the lockdown began was from a client, a big engineering company, which was interested in outdoor space to work. They wanted some spaces outside of their buildings and more connected to nature, but also a bit safer in terms of the air that they breathe. And I think there's big advantages, whether you're at home or whether you're in the office, of having that access to nature.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is the best. I think the best space that we need after we are sitting in the rooms for 8 hours. We need to have like open air.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your sharing. I think we will address all the questions in the later stage of the times. Perhaps I would like to invite Dr. Izzuddin to share his insights. Over to you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my slide first.
Dah makan letaklah kat dapur sayang. Atas semua.
Yep.
Okay. Is it good?
Yep.
All right. Okay. First of all, I think thank you to Mr. Shara for the quick introduction of myself at the beginning of the session. And Assalamualaikum and good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you all. Okay, actually I've been approached by Dr. Sola from Microcorp to talk about something related to future of the workspace. And then last week actually, and then I tried to think on what is the best topic which I can share to you all regarding, of course, really related to architecture, because I'm the head of architecture department in UTHM, University Tun Malaysia on Malaysia. And at the same time, also I'm a practicing design architect. So I think I tried to look also to the previous talk that you have regarding the same topic. I mean the number one, I mean the first session of future of workspace that you have previously. And based on that, I tried to figure out maybe the thing that I can share today is the hierarchy of the transformation. Why is it important for us to see on the hierarchy of the transformation? It's because we have working at the office in one end, and at another one, because of the COVID situation, we are forced to work at home. And suddenly it's actually a big gap and a lot of issues we have there in between working in the office and also working at home. Of course, if we ask the workers, they are happy to work at home because of a lot of things that can be done, can be with the family and so on, things like that. But then if we ask to the bosses, are they really happy, the staff working at home, and it really are the production really there? So that's why we're going to discuss it today here. Okay, so the overview of my talk today is just a short talk actually, and after that we can discuss more. is actually on the concept of the workspace, and then we go to the attribute of the workspace before we go to the hierarchy of the transformation that I have in mind, or I have in my idea. Okay. So we need to define the workspace first. The workspace definition is the space used or required for one's work, as in office or maybe at home. So basically, it's about an area for us to work. Whether what kind of work that we are dealing is, I think we have a variety of works. Some might be very suitable for us to do it at home. Some might not. So there's a variety of situation that we have here talking about the future of workspace here. All right. So, but then when we talk about the future of workspace, normally this is what we have in mind. We have a very high-tech office, and so I think we look this, we watch this in Iron Man, Tony Stark office. We have also CSI office. We have you can see there in the upper right, we have an architect dealing with the holograms model, and also we can do a biopsy using virtual bodies, things like that. But then, do we really have this nowadays? Okay, maybe we have at one end, the very high tech at the one hand. But then most of us, we still don't have this. So during the COVID situation, this is what we have, working at home, and in front of our own table, facing our own screen, and things like this. But to make things worse, not only that, we are facing this, and also this, and also this. So this is the real situation that we have today. So are we really ready to have, are we really ready to work at home? This is a question that I want to ask here, and we can discuss that. So basically we have our home in one end, and then we have the office in another end. So we now either bringing the home to the office, or bringing the office to the home. So that's the work that this is the thing that we need to concern. So when we talk about the concept of workspace, of course, the workspace comes with the attributes. The attributes, maybe I try to list a few attributes here. The first is the facilities that we have, and then another one is security. The third one is safety, and also the environment. We need a good environment for us to work, and also we need motivations. Again, so I think the most important things that we are lacking when we work at home is the motivation and also the environment, because the environment of working is not there. We are dealing with our daily routine at home. At the same time, we try to do our work. So these are the things that we need to deal with. Okay. So because of this problem, I think, and then we try to look in our home. So where we can find these facilities, security, safety, environment, and motivation regarding to our work at our home. Because we have our living hall there, and then our dining hall, master bedroom, study rooms, kitchen. Maybe the best we have our study room there, but then is our study room really conducive for us to do our work there? Because we're going to take quite a long time for us to stay in that very tiny room. So are we comfortable there? Or else maybe we want to change our mood and try to lie down now on our bed while doing our work. At the end, we sleep. So that's the situation that we might face today, dealing at working at home. So these are the advantage and disadvantage of working at home. The first we can see, that the blue one is the advantages of working at home. We have flexi schedule. We can do anything that we want. We can we can arrange our time according to ourselves. And then we have our custom environment. We can set anywhere. We got bored when we do our work in our study room. We can change. We can do our work in dining hall and something like that. And then we can do our work with cozy clothes, no office distractions. Some might think this is a distraction. Some might think that the office surrounding is something which is important to us. Okay, and then zero commuting. We don't have to travel. We can forget the crowd and forget the traffic. And then we can save money because we don't travel. And then at the same time, we can spend more time with our loved ones, of course. So those are the advantages when we do our things and we do our work at home. But then at the same time, the disadvantages of working at home, I try to list, there's about 10 there, maybe more. and we got less focus because a lot of things happening around us. We have our kids, we have our pets around us, so we are not focusing on our work actually. So at the same time, we also find this difficulty to stick with the work. And then we're missing important things, important calls. We're missing important calls, and at the same time we keep on ordering foods, and so which is not good to us, I think. And when we have also extra sleep, we face boredom, and then we work slow. Our tempo of working is very slow because we got no monitoring, and sometimes we also got Wi-Fi, and then we keep on waiting for answers. We try to call someone is not there. We call our colleagues at home. We cannot speak to the person that we want to speak to. So waiting for answers is something which is, I think, we keep on waiting, so that the process of our work is going to be very slow. Okay, but then ironically, there's a survey that shows that working from home yields higher productivity, about 13% increase in performance from working at home, and then 80% of remote workers experience less job stress. Of course, job stress because they are working at home. And the 77% of people working from home also report higher productivity. I'm not sure what in what field is this, but then based on this research, I tried to find is actually try to cover almost all fields. But then I'm a bit skeptical about that. And so at the same time, 52% globally 52% of workers work from home at least once every week. And then also we face another situation where studies found that people working together at the same room can solve their problems more quickly and effectively. And there's also a survey among architects firms. They tend to exercise a salary cut because they find that the process of working at home is not effectively in terms of giving the productivity that they need. So because based on my practice also, what I found happening while my staff also doing their work at home, they can keep track with the schedules, but then after they finish the drawings, then what's next? Because they try to pass the drawings to our colleagues consultant, and they try to get the drawings to get approval. So it cannot proceed from there. So the drawing just stuck there. Yes, they complete the drawings, but then it just stuck there. So there's no productivity. So that's the situation, because once we cannot get the things approved, so the construction cannot be done, and so we cannot claim in terms of our fees. So that's the situation. So I tried to figure out what kind of solution that we can do here. So I tried to base on the bid rent theory. This is the bid rent theory is a theory regarding to the CBD, Central Business District, that we have in our main town. And then once the city get bigger, so people tend to rent further from the CBD. So the same situation also we can apply in our situation here, because we have our main office or our headquarters, the pink color there as our main headquarters. It's a big organization, but then because of the situation that we need to do things remotely, maybe now what we have, if all the people try to work at home, is the yellow color there. But then in between, I suggest there might be a small office, that we can call it some kind of like a hub for us to work based on the task that we required, where we can call it as a satellite office or maybe as a sub-satellite office. So this one, I found that Andy also did mention something about that smaller office footprints. So I think this is something related with that. So we can have a smaller office. We can control in terms of the SOP of the COVID-19 on whatever we can control. We can make all the facilities and all the attributes that we required. If you can go back here, that's the facilities and the security, safety, environment, and also the motivation. Also, we can keep the motivation high among the workers there, because we have maybe you can put one of the manager there so that they can motivate all the workers there. in small group. So I think this can help a lot instead of having everybody at home and without any monitoring. So maybe we can have a satellite, and also we can have a sub-satellite where they can do different tasks of works to support the headquarters tasks. So these are the things that we can do, I think. So in UTHM also, we have our main campus, and another one, because we architecture program, we have another, we call it a city campus. It's just a small building away from the main building. And at the same time, because architecture students have been called upon, because based on the requirement by Board of Architects, they required architecture students to come into the campus so that we can have a physical face-to-face class, especially for the studio design project. So by having our premise away from the main campus, we can control everything there. Yes, of course, we a lot of things need to be done because our Wi-Fi there also is not so good. But then at the same time, in terms of COVID SOP, I think we can manage that successfully because we are in a small group. So those are the examples that I'm saying that we can do it in other offices as well. So with this, okay, this is what we discussed just now, attributes of the satellite and sub-satellite office. We can have the facilities there, working areas with physical distance SOP. We can make sure the Wi-Fi working well there. And then also we can keep our security high, workers' security and confidential matters also we can keep that professionally. And at the same time, also we can maintain our safety there, COVID-19 SOP, and also the standard safety of all the regulation, like for example fire safety, things like that. We can maintain that properly there, and also we can keep the environment good working environment with co-workers, and also we can keep also the motivation with a good managing system there. We can have a good monitoring and motivation to the staff. So I think that we can have that kind of things better in a small group. So of course, in a small group, the architecturally we can control also the circulation based on this. This is a school of thought of architecture system. We have a public zone, a semi-public zone, and a private zone. So we can plan everything there so that we can plan the circulation of the workers there, because it's a small area and it's not so hectic compared if we do it in a big organization building. All right. So with that, thank you. I open it to discussion. All right, I pass it over to Mr. Shah.
Thank you, Dr. Izzuddin. I think, yeah, it's true. When I start asking all my staff working from home, sometimes I'm thinking about whether they are doing the work or not. They are performing on what we're supposed to do, or they are still sleeping at home at the bed. They're supposed to come to the office at 8:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are a lot of things that trigger in my mind as a bosses or as the owner of the company.
Yeah.
But again, to handle the situation, I need to throw away all this the negative thought about it. Mm-hmm. And what I did is that I start to creating I don't call it flexibility yet, Andy, because I don't came to that term at that time, But I want to try that where they enjoy work from home. They have an event, they have an activity that we do it virtually, like a quiz, singing. I mean, it's like I want to create the environment where they enjoy work from home. I mean, they are still be part of the 60 people on a daily. Of course, we're not meeting each other. We only meetings whenever we need. We make a call or we make a Zoom meeting, But what happened is that some of them requested that can I came to office, So, can I came to office, I already, get enough. I mean, I don't know whether they get bored to working at home, or maybe they get kicked by the wife, you go back to office, I don't know what is happening, but there is a request that they want to come back to office, So, and during this third wave of the COVID-19, we have another MCO in our state, and we need to go back to the program where we are working from home, But for this stage, we change the concept. We only allow staff that have family, that have kids, they have husband or they have wife, only them work at home. Meanwhile, whoever that's still single, that stay in our staff house, we have a quarters, we not allow them to stay at home because in the staff house, they don't have proper setting of the tables, it's just a bed and it's just a rooms, So I ask them, whoever that stay in the staff house, which is I think 10 of them, they need to come to office, And when come to office, you need to, we also, because there's nobody in the office, it's only 10 of them, So it's like we have a 6-story building, only 10 people inside there. It's pretty bored also. So, I mean, previously maybe many people inside the office, but now it's only 10 of them. So I said to them, you can listen to the music, I mean, you can do like what make you happy, while working, because nobody in the office, except you all. So need to enjoy work. I need to change this, but of course it's not easy. It's not easy to change it, to make this thing happen, but in 2 times, we also creating a lot of check and balance, check and balance, like we do have previously we don't have a progress meeting like we schedule it, but we only call whenever we need, but due to working from home, we arrange a good time to talk, good time to discuss, instead of last time when we are not work from home, sometimes we have difficulty to find time to have chit chat, to have discussion, heavy discussion, But from this exercise, I think we managed to do something more meaningful in our activity, So I think that's maybe that's the some of the research maybe came out with that, because we need to make sure that when we are working from home, we need to change the environment to suit, and also change the mindset. How can we suit with the limited space that we have, for example? Like I enjoy to see the table and this, So I love to have that when we are working from home. We have that kind of place, but not many of us can have that ample space to have that roses, we have the plant, So I think it's a challenging, to work from home actually, especially in Malaysia, and we are not get used to work from home, So I think this is the starting point, we need to learn how can we make use of work from home, It's a 9 months already, but almost 9 months. Okay, we are waiting for a question. I think Alicia, have you collecting any questions?
Yeah, we have one question on the chat.
Okay.
Let's check that out.
Okay, there is a question. Question to Dr. Izzuddin. What define a workplace with a good safety attribute? If you're given a choice, which part of house will you set your workplace? That's a good one.
Okay, I think if we're talking about a good workplace, of course, we need to have some things that resemble as our office as well. Because there's also an article regarding how do we can bring a good productivity to our style of working at home. One of it I wish I read is about by preparing with a proper attire for you. Instead you are working at home, but then you need to also I mean have a good suit for you to work, so that you can have that kind of mood. So by having that, I think we also need the space to resemble exactly, almost, I mean, not exactly, but then as close as possible as our working space. So with all the facilities that we have in that space. But then, of course, because we are dealing with our home, which is being designed early on without any thinking or thought about working at home previously. So maybe we need to adjust a bit in terms of what we have today, maybe at our study area if we have, or maybe at our dining area if we have some kind of that area. But then I just want to add on a little bit in terms of the situation that we have today, because normally in terms of architecture design, we do how we design things is basically directly to the function of the space. Okay, so by having this kind of situation, I think what we need to do, in terms of the design, we need a more flexible space actually. We need more flexible space for us to change in terms of the function, so that we can have a good surrounding and also the good environment for us to work at home. Okay.
Yeah, Andy, I think the flexibility, I think, is useful now, when during this pandemic. What do you think?
Oh, very much so. And just to pick up on the working from home, obviously, if organizations were already doing it, it's easier for them to make the transition. But one of the biggest obstacles is the size of homes in the UK in particular. Since about 2007, homes have been getting much smaller, the new homes that are being built. And we're now talking about building 3 million new homes to catch up with the demand. And I'm worried that they're going to be even smaller and smaller, so you can design out the ability to work from home. Now, in the past, I've done some studies about live workspace, but also looking at what kinds of businesses work at home. And actually, there's a huge number of businesses that aren't office type of businesses. There are people involved in food preparation, light engineering, therapies, people who are physiotherapists and things like this, and they need a space for what they're using for their business as well. So there's a real challenge here to architects, I think, to stop shrinking the size of homes, and probably more developers than architects, I would say, actually, and planners, and thinking about, in this new world of work, we need to design homes as places you can work. I could say a lot more, but I've written an article on LinkedIn just about this, so if anyone wants to follow that up, and the different kinds of spaces you might have. And I worry slightly about the idea of the office that you might work in other times being the model for what you have at home. I think as long as you've got good economics and you've got good space, then we should allow it to evolve as people want it to. One thing I've noticed is that people are a lot more informal in meetings, and the hierarchy seems to become flattened when you see people's bosses, in a t-shirt or when the kid's running past, and you get used to it. And I think that's a good development. And finally, I'd just like to say on this topic, I think managing by results is so crucial. Having a clear idea of what people are meant to deliver, so you don't need to reproduce the monitoring systems, the watching over people's shoulders when people are working remotely. So being very clear about what are the objectives of work, what's to be delivered by when, keep the conversation going, and that there's not really much need to worry about what people are doing. If they don't deliver, then deal with it.
Oh, we cannot hear you, Mr. Shara.
So I lost everyone's sound there.
Yeah.
Okay, how about now?
Okay. That's good.
So I think I've been traveling in UK last year, a few years back. I've been seeing that the house is getting smaller and smaller, like what you said. So especially at the Battersea, the size of the house is smaller, the price is expensive.
Yeah.
I think this is the situation currently happening. Even not only in UK but also in Malaysia. I think the house is getting smaller and smaller. We still have plenty of land.
One of the things I find sort of interesting about Asia following a Western model of urban development is that often in smaller communities, work and home are much more integrated. And you may have your grandparents looking after children while you're doing something else out the front of your business. And moving people, separating the home from work is part of the model of a Western urban development. And I don't think it's appropriate in a digital age. We should be doing much more to integrate them and having them close together.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, what do you think, Doctor? Dr. Izzuddin?
Yeah, I think along the way we have to as what you said, we need to get used to it because the situation that we have to face it right now. Yeah, maybe the situation because it's not common to us, so that's why we find it a bit awkward. But then along the way, I think we get used to it. But then, as what I said just now, because the situation of COVID-19 recently hit us, is strike us quite hard, and then suddenly we from working at the office, we turn it to working at home. All of a sudden, it's quite a big surprise for us, and so I can say that we are not really ready by then. But then along the way, we can get used to it.
Yeah, I think the same is true though for the majority of European companies. Most of them weren't really prepared, didn't have extensive home working. So it's while there are some companies that I tend to work with which have gone down that road already to a significant degree, for the majority it's also been a bit of a shock. And some people are finding some things very good about it, and others are very worried about the team fragmenting or people working all the time, as well as about not really being comfortable with how they manage the home work interface. So these are all real issues and this is where companies can help in various ways, trying to make that transition easier.
Yeah, I think again another things that I'd like to know about this flexibility activity in UK. How they targeted for the 2022, is it?
So sorry, I didn't hear all the questions.
Yeah, let me change my. I think I have some.
I think Mr. Sharing was referring to the code practice that should be implemented by 2022 in the UK.
Yes, so it's a guide which is applicable across sector. It's particularly for central government departments and agencies to follow, but also over the past 2 years, I think I've been working with lots of other organizations which aren't central government but are public sector, like hospitals in the defense sector, including some of the secret agencies and things like that as well, which have got high need for security, obviously, and higher education. So there's local councils, they're taking a lead from what central government does, and they can see the kind of wisdom of it. With central government, it is also associated with their estate strategy, and that there's plans to reduce the office estate of government in London by about 2/3. And some of that is by relocation to Leeds, Manchester, and so forth, but also introducing smart working. And there's a government hubs program, a bit like Dr. Izzuddin was saying about having satellite offices, but having satellite hubs where different government departments share. So it's kind of like government co-working. And so they will have a reduced departmental footprint and people working from home, but who've got somewhere more local that they can go to. The Ministry of Justice, for example, has set up a network of it's about 50 commuter hubs, sometimes sharing premises with other local bodies as well, so people don't have to travel so far, and it gives them that professional environment when they're not working from home.
Yeah, I think there is. I think that's also what I've been promoting or talking with the government for last 10 years, you know, to follow what you did actually, Mr. Andy. So, but I don't call it that flexibility at the time. But now I know that there is the name is flexibility. You know? So
Or smart working, I think it's just flexibility is the name of the company because that's what we started back in the 90s. But I think now it's kind of beyond flexibility in a way to have a more integrated business approach to it.
yeah, it's related to that. You know, the integrated business approach, the strategic elements, you know, changing the new way of doing things instead of using the old methodology, old contracts, concepts. You know, it's not really flexible. It's not really strategic in doing the business. You know? So this is what we are also promoting it nowadays. You know, we're not just providing solution on software, but we are also doing the change management related to the goods ethics, good working environments. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what we put inside our implementation programs, but it's not easy to adopt it. You know? It's not easy to make the people change. For the last maybe couple of years, they are doing that in the environment. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, Alicia, you have any question, Alicia?
We have one question from Julian for Dr. Izzuddin. So he says the current situation warrants us to be cost conscious, right? So wouldn't creating more satellite or sub-satellite offices will lead to higher capital costs, operational costs?
Okay, I think this situation is it's not about creating a new building, something like that. We can use a existing building, a retrofit system. We can do an existing building that we can maybe we can renovate the buildings so that we can prepare the spaces to have this kind of small offices. And these offices is actually not, it's not the fixed offices, because nowadays we also have a mobile offices. We can set everything there, but then from maybe can be used by one company, and then after that it can be changed to another company, because at that point at that particular area we can have a good facility, security, and those kind of things, the attributes that I mentioned just now. So that's why I'm concerned, so that we can have those kind of facilities there, and then also all the attributes there, so that we try to close the gap between what we have in a existing office and also the working at home. This is a process. I think along the way, maybe it's what we try to prepare all the community to work at home at the end of the day. But then along the way, we need to have this kind of process so that it's not everything is not coming as a shock to us, something like that.
I think it's similar to what Andy mentioned about the court, is it? Moving away from central London, is it, Andy?
Something like that.
So, how about Anisha? Another question for, I think, to Andy, I think. We have a question for Andy. Since the COVID-19 students are forced to attend online lectures, online university is actually a topic which has been discussed before this pandemic. What is your take on this online university program, and do you see this as the future for students around the world?
Well, I think it's very much part of the future. Some universities have been doing this for some time and having these open courses which are done online. They do these from American universities, although the dropout rate from those is phenomenal. It's something like 80% of people drop out from these courses. But when you've applied for university and you're paying for it, tuition fees and things, then yeah, I think it's part of it. It also affects the spaces in which people work, and I've seen some very interesting things done by Herman Miller Company actually around designing for a more hybrid kind of university experience. One of my daughters actually is a lecturer in animal welfare, and she's doing a lot of things. She had to learn very rapidly all about online tuition and so forth. And they have a mix of some people coming in. Obviously, when they're dealing directly with the animals, they have to be there, get their hands on. But a lot of the rest of it is being done remotely. And she says it's actually working surprisingly well. And especially the kind of one-to-one tuition and things that she does, and getting that regularity of contact with students, some of which may not have been there before. But I think for students, the experience of leaving home, going to another place, and all the social aspect of that is so valuable that I think that's got to be a key part going forward. It's just having these additional ways of doing things.
Yeah, it's true. I've been for the last I think 3 months ago, I've been teaching one of the subject, CAFM, Computer Aided Facility Management. But the only thing different is that I need to do it online. So it's like
Yes.
It's changing the experience of delivering the courses. Before is face to face, but now is I need to deliver it online, to make sure the student awake. That's the most challenging.
Or not multitasking, doing something else at the same time.
Yeah. So I think, but it's great, the only thing is like we need to change. I need to change the mode of delivering it, and make the student enjoy attending my class via online. And I think, yeah, little bit change here and there, tweak there, changing the mode of delivery of the subject, and they are enjoying, I think they are enjoying the attending class, And sometimes last time when we do face to face, some of them came late to the class, But we are doing online, everybody is like maybe early than me, like 20 minutes early than me. So because I think that they're changing the modes. What about you, Dr. Izzuddin, teaching online?
Yeah, I think I'm teaching architecture, we're teaching design. So it's quite tough. I can say it's quite tough for us to teach design in online. But then throughout the period that we have to do it through online, we managed to do it. And then but I can see maybe in terms of student understanding a bit low compared to if we have it face to face. But then that's why the Board of Architects in Malaysia also, they required the studio to be taught in face to face. So eventually, before this semester started, suddenly the third wave start to increase in terms of the COVID-19 cases. So we have to do it online as well.
I think I have 2 of my kids is studying in the university. They converted their bedrooms, to a standard of the hostel with all the tables, which is before they don't bother about it, So they converted by themselves. They say I need to be ready for my class. I need to have my own table and chair. So I think that's what they make. I mean, this situation changing their way of thinking. To make it more ready, and because they said that most of the time they are inside the bedrooms. Sometimes when I went back at home, it's very quiet, I don't hear their voice, there's nobody at the television, they are in their rooms attending their class actually. So okay, and any more thing to add, Andy? We are still waiting for if there is another question.
I saw one question there asked to both of us about is hybrid working the most ideal concept for the future of the workplace?
Yep, it's for you, I think.
Well, I think hybrid working has for most organizations has been a part of moving to smart or agile working, getting that mix of remote working and a great place in which to work as a central location that you go to. My worry about people using the term hybrid working, or the new normal is another phrase people are looking, is that these phrases, they lack the transformational aspect. So if you see hybrid working as just doing the same old work but in more places, I don't think it's any real gain. It's about how you do things better, how you make interactions more purposeful and dynamic using the new technology and new spaces. And so you're becoming more productive as you do it. and getting that sort of culture of focusing on results rather than just turning up. So getting that transformation in alongside the hybrid working is, I think, the best way forward.
Yeah. Yep, sure, definitely. This cannot just be translated as a hybrid. You know? Okay, Alicia, any more question that we have?
I think that's all for tonight. Also, we're running out of time. Probably it's lunchtime there, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
I think it's still like that we have covered everything. How about Dr. Izzuddin? Any things that you want to add in?
Yeah, I think, yeah, my concern is now about the spaces that among architects, our design, we need to be more flexible and dynamic to cater all the requirements of this situation. Yeah.
Andy, do you have anything to before we wrap up?
Not really, just that it is quite an interesting time in which there's been a lot of innovation on all fronts, and I think just to encourage everybody to think innovatively and rather than trying to do old things in more difficult circumstances, actually, what can we do better? What can we innovate, and see what you come up with. Yeah.
So I think this is the situation where we have issue in our life, you know, and that's what we are trying to do, you know, to fill in the gaps, to fill in with a good activity to everybody in Malaysia, you know, by inviting the speaker, inviting our friends that can share good things, you know, while waiting for sleeping time. So, and at least we can gain knowledge, gain information, and build up, start to think about what we are going to do tomorrow. You know, I think this is what we try our best to fulfill the time that we have in Malaysia, and we're not allowed to go to any supermarkets, any cinema, you know, at night. You know, I mean, everybody like close down early, you know, but at night we have nothing to do. That's why we want to have this kind of session more frequent, you know. Perhaps maybe we put more topics. Maybe we invite you against. Maybe there will be a organization or government organization interested about your topic about flexibility, because we have numbers of people from the Construction Industry Development Board actually would like to join tonight, but because of the time that's not suitable to them, you know, they say you have a good speaker tonight. Actually, we also have Dr. Izzuddin, you know. So everybody asking your number actually from me. Okay, great. If we have, we don't have anything. I think. Do you have any last question, Anisha?
That was our last question.
Maybe perhaps we can run the poll for others to fill in. I need to run my poll, you know, to. Yep, I'm running my poll and to get the feedbacks on the survey of the progress or the activity. Since there is no more question, I would like to give a special thanks to Andy Lakes and also Dr. Izzuddin. You know? Thank you very much for speaking with us in our webinar, and also we appreciate your time. We appreciate your efforts to prepare a slide and also to make some presentation with us, you know. And we also will share this information tomorrow in our YouTube, you know, if permitted by the speaker. Okay. We are really very grateful for the time and effort that's given by you, and you took to share your thought and experience with us. And I believe we all can get benefits immediately from the knowledge. And we will always welcome you to our next session. And we also have our YouTube channel where we are going to post our webinar recordings. So if you want to check, you can see search our YouTube in Microsoft Berhad. And thank you again and for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week. And very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody, and good night. And also, Andy, thank you very much. Dr. Izrin, thank you very much for your time. So we will see you again for next session. All right.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shara, and thank you, Microcorp.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye to everyone.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.